Hello everybody, I hope you're having a fantastic day. We've got some mail, so let's go ahead and do a mailbag. This is, I'm trying to keep my address in there. This is a set of consumables. These things run about $1 a piece. These are Hakko ceramic paper filters for the FR-301 desoldering gun. And next to my wife and the office cat, this thing is the love of my life. Absolutely love it. Got it over here, and when it does have, you know, it gets wear and you need to maintain it. And so, actually it's funny, I haven't done this in so long. So you pull this out and there is a filter back there, and they do, you know, you can kind of knock the crap off them every once in a while, but you know, every 5 or 6 times I clean this thing out, I try to get rid of the filter, and I am out of filters. So I decided to order the brand name ones. This thing is expensive enough, it's not worth messing around getting some aftermarket filter for it. They're $10 for 10 of them, and I think the first 3 I had lasted me for a year and a half, so I think I'm going to have these for a really long time. These are the A50044 Hakko filters. Next up, we have one that I have well, I guess I do know what it is now, PLCC 68 dip. So let's open this thing up. And PLCCs are those square chips. Let's see if this is this is either a chip or a socket for a chip. It is a socket for a chip, and I hope these pins are not bent, because 68 pins is a lot to straighten out. Yeah, these are those square pins and these square chips, and I've got a board that Gadget Reboot did a video on that makes puts 8 floppy drives into a computer, and I've wanted to make one of these for a long time and just hadn't got around to ordering all the parts, but I did. But the sockets are crazy expensive if you go to get them from somewhere like Mauser. So I ordered these off eBay, and they have speed pack stuff on eBay now, which has been great. If you can get it, you know, you'll get the stuff in about a week from China, which is awesome. So these are 10 of these little PLCC sockets. They are sort of keyed. It's a little hard to tell sometimes which way it goes, but there's a little dot right there. It has a side cut off just a little bit, and you drop the chip in there. You'll see that when I make the video, but yeah, overall, considering how they were shipped, they came in actually pretty good shape. 10 of these sockets, I think these were like maybe $13 for 10 of them, so these weren't cheap either, but there's something like $3 or $4 each from Mauser, so getting them from China is just considerably cheaper. I haven't been making a lot of PCBs lately, but I'm guessing I'm going to be getting into a little bit more soldering in this new year. This feels like a bunch of chips or something. No, what is that? Oh, hey, these are coins. Okay. So these are coin blanks, and I actually ordered these for my friend Colby. These are coin blanks that get used in the fiber laser. Man, I'm going to need to grab one and show you what you can do with these things. But anyway, these are brass coins, and not the CO2 laser, not like the K40, but the fiber laser allows you to do some really crazy engraving. And so I'll go ahead and show you one of those. In fact, I'll stop the video right now and I'll go grab one. So this is one that I made out of aluminum with my friend Colby, and as you can see here, it actually does take away some metal. It took away a couple hundred thou on that one. You know, it doesn't take long. This laser is crazy fast. But in this situation, we took some aluminum away. And this side here, we actually took all the outside away and left the logo in the shiny stuff. So it's kind of cool. You can do some really cool stuff with this. These are obviously made out of brass and cheaper blanks and a little bit smaller and stuff like that. But they are really cool if you want to make little coins that are gifts, or you can even punch holes in them, make pendants and all kinds of weird stuff out of them. And the more passes you do, the deeper you go. So you can do some really cool stuff. The other thing you can do is you can actually, there's like smoothing passes for it. So in other words, like on this quarter, like just as a joke, we took away all the dirt except for the logo, you know, on there. And so this isn't like etched on there. We actually just took away the rest of the dirt, but it doesn't really brush off. So it's pretty sweet, the effect that you can get by just taking a little bit of a pass and taking off just microns with the laser. Next up, I think this is related to those sockets that we've already played around with. Wow. Okay. Man, I'll tell you one thing. These Greta Thunberg would be upset with these like Mauser and DigiKey and all that, with just the sheer amount of plastic for everything they sell. So these are some more parts for the for those floppy drive controllers. I don't need to go through all of them, but we have some 688s, which I had some of these, but I bought a couple high quality ones from them. These are logic chips. We've got a lot of these things. This project called for a lot of these resistor arrays. I'm not going to open up that one. I probably got other ones around. But the resistor arrays are a bunch of resistors in one row. I mean, this is a little easier to see here. You've seen these before on the channel, but it's, you know, there might be 1,000 ohm resistors with one ground at the end, just kind of all joined together. And I don't particularly like working with them. You know, it's kind of a pain. I'd rather just use standalone resistors because every single one of them I need is different. But yeah, these are 10K ones. These are, what are these here? These are 1K ones. You know, so it's like you could use 5 1K resistors or these things. So these are just, you have to special order them. These are some MLCC capacitors. We've got some, what are these here? These 138s. These are another logic chip. And then what are these down here? Oh, I think we got some crystals. Yeah, some 24 megahertz crystals to clock the chips. And yeah, just stuff like that. Just some basic discrete components and ICs. Next up, not sure what exactly this one is. I ordered a couple things from Amazon, sort of my year-end upgrades for my office. So let's see what this one is. This one, well, it's already ripped there. No, maybe it's, yeah, it is. Ah, okay, I forgot about this. Okay, I've been making fun for the longest time of the, it's funny, I already have this over here. This is the Hakko FR-301, and I love it, but there's one thing I hate about it. I've mentioned this in other videos, but this is the stand that these idiots came up with, thinking that that's a perfectly acceptable stand for this thing. You know, does absolutely no good. And in fact, I mean, what's the point? Like, it doesn't lay down like that very easily anyway. It basically accomplishes nothing. I mean, maybe stops you from banging it up against the wall. That's about the end of this thing. It's about all this thing does. Well, this is the one that they recommended. I don't even really think it's perfect as is, but we're gonna try it. Let me adjust my camera here. All right, so this is the Hakko 633 iron holder, and it comes with the Hakko F99B copper thingy holder, and it is the recommended holder for this thing. Now, it still, as you can see here, it still makes it rest on the strain relief, which is pretty dang annoying, because all I had to do was lift this up an inch and it would have been a lot better than it is. And in fact, I might wind up mounting this thing on a piece of wood or something like that, maybe a piece of metal I might make for it to lift this thing up just a little bit more and do the job again that Hakko didn't do on their own. But overall, I really like this part. I've tried to duplicate this with some other things and nothing fit as well as this did. So overall, I like that part of it. And I mean, it is worlds better than this piece of garbage. So I can't complain about that, but you know, I still think they could do better. And so Hakko, do better. But in the meantime, I'll use this. So I've been doing my end of the year sort of business purchases where I make decisions about things I need to upgrade on my network and my computers and the security and things like that. So I have some cameras around the office, and I'm adding some more cameras around the office. And to do that, I use these 8-port PoE switches. We've talked about PoE before. Power over Ethernet, so you can actually use the switches to power the cameras without needing a separate power supply. And I had just purchased these two for about 90 bucks a piece on Amazon. Netgear is kind of been my go-to on PoE and switches kind of in general. Netgear, TP-Link for the most part. But I was actually at the flea market and I found this one, which as you can see, there's a little bit of damage on the corner of the box here. But this here on the left, the one that I bought with my own hard-earned money, is an 83 watt PoE. And so essentially, if you have things in all 8 ports, you get roughly 10 watts per channel, which is enough for a standard camera, but maybe not one of the pan, tilt, zoom cameras or something like that. Now this one here is an 8-port one with 123 watts, and I paid 15 bucks for this thing at the flea market. So there is a chance that if everything is good to go with this one, then I'm going to be returning one of my $90 switches for the $15 one. So I just bought it, so I just got it in. There's plenty of time to return it. So let's take a look. It is indeed apparently new in the box with a honkin' power brick. And that's what happens when they upgrade the PoE. You get a bigger power brick, and that thing is no joke. That is 2.5 amps at 54 volts. So you've got 129.6 watts for the for the power brick itself, and 123 of those go to PoE, which is pretty insane. These are unmanaged switches, so there's not a ton going on inside of them. But you've got some rack mount ears and things like that. Got a beefy power cord, and we've got the switch. And I think one like this is PoE on all the ports. So I mean, there's no doubt if this thing works, I'm going to keep this one, whether I return one of the other ones still to be up in the air. But yeah, these things can do 30 watts per port max, which I think the other one can do 30 watts per port, but the total, there's kind of two factors there. There's, you've got the total amount that the switch can handle and the amount each port can handle. So each port can give you 30 watts, and you can do up to 123 watts total on this, or this is, I think, still 30 watts per port, but only 83 total. So again, a standard camera like mine is 10 watts, and I was a little like, you're kind of pushing it there, but this is going to give me some room to spare, power some more things. In fact, I might make this one a little bit more accessible than I was originally planning to, because I drive a lot of microcontrollers and stuff off of power over Ethernet. So I cannot complain about this. There's no fan in this thing, which means it's quiet, and yeah, 15 bucks. I actually didn't go very crazy on buying stuff at the end of the year, and to be honest, I probably should have. I probably should have spent down a little bit more business money, but this is a Wi-Fi 6 mesh compatible router, and overall I've had really good success with the TP-Link line of routers. This is the Archer AX21, but I don't actually care about mesh for this. This is just going to be for my office, and this is for network segmentation, which is something I've been working on for a while, but and I'm just getting more and more crazy about it. Anyway, you know me, I may sneak some more items in here that weren't part of this, but I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you're having a great New Year so far, and yeah, have a great day.